Good morning. Well, as many parents know, sometimes fixing your little one's hair can be a challenge. But when you're a new mom with a child of a different race whose hair requires a vastly different routine than you've ever known, it can be overwhelming and isolating. That's where a rare salon outside of Chicago is stepping up, helping parents navigate questions about hair and a lot more.
These cornrows will make her hair last longer, and then she can be as athletic as she wants to be.
Linda Bolger and her mom, Vanessa, have been regular visitors to this salon for years.
It was apparent right from the beginning that her hair was different than mine and that what I had been used to in my life up to that point, and so I knew that we needed to get some education.
Vanessa adopted Linda when she was 3 years old.
And I went to a lot of salons. Nobody does children's hair. The moms do it. Well, it's like I don't have that skill. I don't have that knowledge.
As a newly adoptive mother, what was that like for you when you would get told, well, we don't really have the ability to help you in this situation?
I was in tears. I was literally in tears. I did not know where to turn.
Through a chance connection, they met Tamekia Swint, the salon owner, who was just beginning to steer her career into a nonprofit mission.
I realized how much lack that there was from the African American community to help. And I know the salon environment as a stylist and how sometimes it can feel like you're being judged. But she still struggles. That is why I felt honored to be part of the change into something different that would be non-judgmental, that would be open and loving. Oh my gosh.
13 years later, the conversations have gone well beyond hair care.
Oh my gosh, I had a new level of respect for you.
At Styles for Kids, uncomfortable questions are answered openly.
Like, should I say black or African American? I mean, as simple as that. Because I didn't want to insult anyone. I didn't want to be insensitive to anyone.
Swint helps parents understand why some African Americans might be opposed to interracial adoptions.
Are they really exposing them to what is going to help them succeed in life as an African American person? I think that's like the main concern.
The parents have formed their own community where they can share tips and help their children interact with people who look like them.
It's so important for that child to know I am African American, and although I grew up in a family that didn't look like me, that I am owning who I am as a person.
Lessons Linda Bolger is embracing.
Coming here and getting my hair done makes me happier, makes me feel more confident. And when I walk out, I feel like I can conquer anything.
You look beautiful.
Thank you.
Just one sign of success for Swint.
I have a depth to my life and friends that I would not have had if I was on that path. So I'm grateful. I feel really grateful. I just want to know
that I love her. She's never out of my life. I told her that early on. You are never out of my life.
You're never out of mine. I'm telling you, it's been such a blessing. The friendships that I formed with the moms and dads, I'm telling you, there's nothing like it.
Tamekia started Styles for Kids 9 years ago with just 3 clients whose hair she would style in their homes. Today, she has her own salon and has helped hundreds of families across 5 states. She says this is just the beginning.
Hi, my name is Tamekia Swint, and I am the Executive Director of Styles for Kids. Styles for Kids is an organization that provides high-quality education and services for transracial adoptive kids, families in the biracial and adoptive and foster care communities. And we have been on a mission, and that mission is to provide hairstyles that boost the self-esteem and the self-confidence of kids. And especially in these communities where parents have often not received the training and knowledge and experience that they need in order to be able to manage their kids' textured hair. So we're excited. We're celebrating 10 years this year of having impact on families and kids in these communities.
Oh my God, Tamekia, I am so excited to talk to you. So one, hi, how are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm so excited to talk to you because I saw you on the news, and I'm like, you know what? I mean, and I'm not a shy, like, so full disclosure, I used to be a radio and television producer. I'm not shy to go after like people that I see that I'm interested in. I saw you on the news, and I'm like on the national news, not just local. Like I saw you on national news. I'm like, went on your Facebook. I was like, love what you're doing. Went online. You have to like know what this woman is doing. And then when the pandemic started, I started a podcast because I wanted to share great stories. I was tired of all like the gloom and doom stories, and I wanted to promote a lot of small businesses that are doing great things. I will find them all over the country. I travel around the world. I started calling all my friends that own businesses and like, let's tell your story. But then I'm like, not on top of it, I'm lucky to have friends all over the world. I want to start finding all the strangers that I see that I love and share their stories as well. So hello, new friend. And
yes, hello.
I want people to know who you are. So let's, before the company started, who are you? Where did you come from? What's your story?
Yeah, well, I am a Chicago native. I love my city. And, you know, I, like most people, at the point when I started Styles for Kids, I had been in corporate America for a while, and I just really wasn't connected to it. And I just felt like I should be doing something else, something that had more purpose, something that had more meaning. And not that my job wasn't important. It was, and I felt like I was making the difference in the lives of people, but it just wasn't what I felt like I was supposed to be doing. And so I went on this mission to try to figure out, you know, what is it I really like to do? What is it that I love to do? What am I passionate about? And from as long as I can remember, I've always been passionate about hair. But it was the thing that, you know, especially growing up in an African-American family, you know, there was a lot of emphasis on getting an education and going to school. And so I started down this path of, you know, going to school and, you know, doing the thing that was going to make my family proud. And I'm glad that I did that. I think there's a place in it. And even in the midst of work, I always kept coming back to that. And so
I'm going to stop you for a second. So the recording, the camera cut out a little bit. So I heard that in the midst, and then you started breaking up. So in the midst of education, so I'll even just plug in a question. What was your major? What did you go to school for? And what was the job that you had prior?
Okay. So prior to starting Styles for Kids, I took a little stint in law enforcement. So that was right after school. I was on this journey to become a healthcare professional. That's what I initially went to school for. And in that journey, I knew that, you know, I had to work. So I got a job working in law enforcement in hopes that I would continue on to get my master's degree and enter the healthcare field. But as I began this, again, uphill climb in corporate America, I began to see that, you know, that wasn't the income that was gonna make me happy. And so then I kind of pivoted and I said, well, I'm going to go and get my master's in business, and I'm going to look into trying to run my own business. And so I ended up in insurance. And really what I wanted to do when I started Styles for Kids is I wanted to have my own insurance agency. So I was on the path to kind of do that up until my life changed on a mission trip, really. And I realized that my life wasn't about me, so to speak, but I wanted to spend it giving it to other people.
So you just hit three major well-known industries, but they're just so dramatically different. Why, like you went from law enforcement, insurance. I mean, most people just like kind of like, I'm going to go, I'm sorry, I don't even know where to go with that just because there's.
I know.
Like I'm just trying to grab onto that.
Odd, right?
We'll talk about that in regards of what was it that interested you about each of these industries. How did you grow up, and you were raised with education comes first. Same thing for me, where
yes,
education is the key to opening up every single door, not just a door, but every single door that you can have. And so when you went into these fields that they're very intense, they're very engaging. There's a lot of work that goes towards that. So you had to put so much in yourself into these.
Yes.
And then there's something about it that just didn't work for you. So can you talk about the stem of being at home and learning that education is the key, and then you're going into these different paths? What was it that attracted you, and what was it that detracted you?
From corporate America. Okay, so one of the things that attracted me to corporate America was the fact that I wanted to make money. I think corporate America is very driven by income and success and what that looks like for everybody. And it's different for everyone. But I've always been highly motivated by money. And so law enforcement, I mean, it was great. I felt like I was making a difference, but I wasn't making the income that I wanted to make. So then that said, okay, well, what else is there that I can do to increase my opportunity to earn more? So that is why I went into the insurance industry, because, it's flexible. You can kind of identify, what income you want to make, and then you go after that. And that's kind of how corporate America works. But again, even though I was working, there was a sense of just not being fulfilled in what I was doing, because at the end of the day, money is great, but is it really the thing that's fulfilling me? And for me, what I discovered along that journey is that it wasn't. That although I was making a decent income, like I really wasn't having a significant impact on anyone else. And so at the end of the day, it left me feeling unfulfilled. And it's also something that I was not passionate about. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people miss it, is we're so busy chasing an income and success, but are we really chasing the thing that our heart is connected to? And one person I really admire in that area is Oprah Winfrey. And she's had several shows where she's talked about, having that connection with purpose. And the thing that you're passionate about, that is the thing where you're going to find the greatest fulfillment. And so there's lots of people who had just began to come into my life, that have really began to point me in the direction of chasing my passion instead of just chasing an income.
Yeah, so I'm going to say that the income is without a doubt. I'm driven by money, and people always say, "Oh, that's so negative." You know what? I learn to earn to give back. And if I cannot, honestly, if I can't sit there and learn what I do and do it extremely well, and I can earn the dollars that I'm worthy of, then I can't sit there and help my community. Because
yes,
I'm not putting the oxygen on me first. And so when people are like, "Oh, it's just so negative to talk about money," I'm like, it's not, because I have a big goal of my lifetime. I go and I want to make sure I hit all those goals. And in order to do that, you need those financials. So I never take away from that, but I go literally clearly learn, earn, and give back is like,
that's it.
So I love that you were very focused on, my mission was to learn as much as I possibly can. I go and to literally earn as much as I possibly can. And now you are next section of your life. So
yes.
How did you, well, actually, before I even go to the company, for anyone that is constantly looking to transition or to career switch, what would you say to them? Because they're looking at you and they're hearing, like, I go, wow, she jumped into different organizations. Because people think I'm going to go from sales to marketing. They think about the industry that way, but they're not thinking about a full-on changing to different directions. What would you say to someone that's right now in the pandemic? I'm at home, I'm getting paid, I have this job, I'm not fulfilled, I'm just not there. I want to do something different.
So many people.
What would you say to them, right? What's that message that they can learn from you, from your transitions?
Well, one thing that I wish that I had done differently, because I'm be really transparent right now, is that you want to work full time, but you want to work part time on your passion. And it was something that, in hindsight, that I wish I had done differently, because I just jumped in with both feet. And I'm like, whatever happens, happens. I'm just tired. But, and so my story looks different for that reason. But you do need an income while you're working on your passion. So there's a place where you have to say, okay, instead of being on social media, instead of doing all the things that really are just distractions when you're not working, you need to dedicate some of that time to working on your passion. And then at some point, if your passion becomes productive for you, then you can make some of those bigger decisions about how to transition from one thing to the next. But in hindsight, I wish I had not quit my full-time job, because I did do that. And that created some challenges for me financially. And if that's the place where you are, then great. But I don't recommend that. I recommend that you really work part-time on the thing that you love to do, and allow your full-time income to help support that thing.
All right, so then I'm going to add the second layer to that question. So the individuals that have gotten furloughed or laid off, and now they're like, I always tell people, never waste a good crisis. So now they're in the situation, they've been laid off, they've been furloughed, and they're like, I don't know where to go. There's jobs, but it's really tight because we're in competition with so many other people that have gotten laid off. What would you say to that person? Because now they're in a situation where they have nothing to build, but they want to build something.
Chase your passion and do it with all of your might now. And, you know, I'm not saying don't look for a job, because again, you still need finance, but in every waking moment that you can, because this is something that was said recently to me, and I really caught a hold of that. And what was said is that unprecedented times create unprecedented opportunities if you have eyes to recognize it. So you cannot sit back and just wait for something to happen to you. You got to jump into the game and say, this is the thing I'm passionate about. What action steps can I take today that's going to impact me being able to create a better future for myself and my family tomorrow?
I love it. I mean, I really love it. That's fantastic. All right. So like now we're going a little bit more into the story. So you decided to start your own business. Well, actually, you went on a mission. All right. So
yes,
talk about that, where you decided you knew you wanted to do something for yourself. But what was that lever of like, okay, I'm ready, and what happened next?
Well, it was a series of things that happened. But the first thing that happened is that I did go on a mission trip to another country. And I think there's value in getting outside of your immediate surroundings and seeing something different. And what that did was open my mind up to the possibilities that this world is much bigger than the world that I live in every day. And that there are people who have real issues. And what can I do as my contribution to society to help fix some of these larger issues that are just causing basic problems for people, that if we create some solutions, that they could just live a better life. And so, so as I really began to open up my mind to the possibility of that, what happened was on the trip that I went on, I was challenged to do something. And it was to host a class, and the class could be on anything. So, and you know, I've always been passionate about hair. So I decided, okay, I'm going to teach the ladies, the group of youth, you know, how to do hair. And it was in that I discovered that, number one, I had a teaching gift to do something that I was passionate about. And then people were actually catching on and learning. And so, you know, I kind of held on to that, and I said, well, I don't know what purpose or meaning that this has, but I feel like I'm supposed to be teaching here, you know, so I just started, you know, with one step. And so what was the one step? The one step was, okay, well, I got to start back doing hair, because I had stopped doing hair. And so I jumped back into it, and it's a process that was unfolded to me. So as I took one action step, then the next action step came, and then the next one came. So it was a series of just taking action and then doing something that was making the path clear what the next step was. And so that's why I just say to everyone who's even thinking about transitioning is the most important thing that you can do is take action steps. Because how many times are we always saying, you know, I have this idea, but then you don't have any action steps behind the idea. So once you get the idea, you got to do something.
Well, the thing is, you know those people. I know those people. I mean, I work with entrepreneurs. I hear it all the time, and I'm like, what's the date? They're like, what's that? I'm like, what's the date that you're going to do something? And they're like, what do you?
Yes.
If you have, it's not just telling other people, but it's you have to put a date on it so that way you know that you're holding yourself accountable, and other people are holding yourself accountable as well.
Exactly. And I started telling everybody, and there is a source of accountability in it. I'm like, I'm starting this organization, you know, and then so the next time I see them, they're asking you, okay, well, how's it coming along? And then I say, well, you know, I did A, B, C, and D, and then I met this person, you know, so you do have to have those little accountability things that's really holding you accountable to the process. Mm-hmm,
all right, so I love the educational, I love the inspirational, but you're still not diving into the how did this all come to be? I mean, what?
Okay.
I mean, you start teaching a class and you're challenged, and I'm like, oh, there are gaps in this story.
Yes, it is. So yeah, so I taught the class, and there was something that one of the young ladies said I'll never forget. She said, I always wanted to have beautiful braids like this. And it was like a dream come true for her. And so then there was a little light bulb that went off in my head, and it's like kids and hair, kids and hair, kids. And so then I'm like, okay, so I'm going to go back to Chicago, and when I get off of work, I'm just going to go do kids' hair, you know? And so I took action steps. I started telling people, if you know someone, you know, I'm doing kids' hair now, you know, after work. And so I would leave work, and I would go and work all night and then go to sleep and get back up and go to work the next day. And then at some point, there did come a place where I did have to make a choice. I think I made that choice prematurely. But I made a decision that this is something that I'm passionate about, and I'm just going to cut it all, and I'm going to run after styles for girls at that time. When I made that decision, I met my first transracial adoptive mom, and I don't think anything could have prepared me for that day. You know, everybody has that moment in their life where things begin to change for you. And it was really at that point that my life changed that day, because I realized that I really cared about something that had the ability to really impact someone's future. And so my first client, I met her, she had a hood over her head. She had been going to school like that, and her hair looked horrible.
All right, wait.
And
so for some people that are listening, they may not know the terminology that you just said, biracial. Nope, wait.
Yeah.
What? So
Racial.
some people don't know what that means.
Yes.
They're thinking like, oh, they're thinking about hair. So break it down for everyone to understand clearly what this really means.
So transracial adoption is a family where you have a parent of one race caring for a child of a different race. So biracial means you have a parent of one race, two parents of different races who come together to create a child who's now more than one race. So there's a difference between transracial and biracial, and make sure I tell the difference between those two. And what we're seeing in this country in particularly is that the number of children in the system, especially in foster care, are growing. The number of African American children that are available for foster care and adoption have been growing. And so because of that, we have families now who are one race who are taking those children as their own. And so the gap here is that now there's a cultural gap where you have a child who is in the home of a parent who does not know how to manage textured hair. And that is the place where we come in, and we provide support and service. So that's what transracial means. But yeah, I met this young lady, her hair looked horrible. And I made a decision that day that I wanted to help any child who was in that same position to have an opportunity to not be embarrassed when they go outside about how their hair looks. Because it affects you. It affects how you feel about yourself. It affects your grades in school. It affects the type of friends that you choose. It affects your image and how you feel about yourself. And so it became something that I really felt passionate about and committed to, and that I was in a position to do something about. And so my life changed that day. And that's ultimately how Styles for Kidz has become an organization today. Is I let that family know, if you know anybody else, let them know to call me, because we're going to change this. Okay.
So are you teaching? All right. So I'm first generation and born in America. I'm from Haiti. The kids would make fun of us because every day we had a different hairstyle and every day we had a different ribbon. I don't know how my mother found ribbons that matched every single uniform outfit. I mean, she found ribbons for days. She literally committed to every single photo, every single time. She always told us wearing the same hairstyle is like wearing the same clothes. So it was like a commitment for her to make sure that our hair was different all the time. What are you teaching the parents? Are you teaching the kids? Who are you teaching, and how are they, how's the learning process for them?
Yeah, so we have two programs. We have our Care and Confidence program, and that program is for the kids. And then we have our Education and Resource program, and that program is for the parents. So the Care and Confidence program is focused on giving the kids beautiful hairstyles. So we're like the go-between. So we come in contact with these families, and there is a learning curve for a lot of the families that we work with. So, but we don't want that child to walk around not feeling good about themselves while we're working on the learning curve. So we provide services on an ongoing basis to families that need them. And that is focused on giving confidence and self-esteem to a child who has not had that. And then on the education and resource side, we are teaching parents how to do texture hair. So we're teaching them the basics, and we're showing them how to do basic hairstyles so that they have children that feel good about themselves and also feel confident about their parents' ability to manage their hair. And I'm telling you, it has been transformational in the families, because we're creating bonds between parents and child that did not exist before, in a situation where a lot of times at the point that we come in, it has been a place of contention and discord in the family. So now we're bringing those families together and creating better relationships between parents and children through that program.
Why did you decide to, you've been here for 10 years now, and you've evolved this company, and I know that you've grown. You've grown in different ways. Why did you decide from going from a straight business to a charitable act, where you've become that organization, the go-to organization? Because you could have just had a regular, just like a shop.
Correct.
I know that you were talking about how you want to find your passion in what you do, but what was that moment that you realized, hey, you know what? It shouldn't just be Chicago, it should be a lot more. And
yes,
did you make it grow? What was that moment of, I need to grow this and this is how I'm going to do it?
Well, one of the reasons that I made it nonprofit is because there is a social mission that's attached to the service. And I cannot tell you the number of kids that we have helped and the impact that it's had on them in situations where it could have been different. And I'm going to give you a practical example. Okay. A lot of the kids that we work with, the restorative services that they need on their hair is not something that a regular salon would take the time to really work with. We've had girls who come here where we spent 4 and 5 and 6 hours restoring their hair just to get it to the place where it could be combed or managed. And that is not something that you're going to see in a typical salon. In most cases, they would cut the hair off and start over. So we're all about what is best for the child and making sure that we can restore them, not just the hair, but also their level of confidence, their ability to interact with African Americans, where some of them have not had that opportunity. And then we have kids who have been in the system, who have tons of issues that they are dealing with. And now we're trying to help restore their sense of self-esteem and self-image, and really create a situation where we're giving them confidence. That is not something that you're going to see in a typical salon. And it takes time. It's relationship building. It's building a sense of trust. And so that is the main reason why we're nonprofit. And the second reason is because, remember, nonprofit business is really no different than for-profit, other than the fact that we're taking the income that comes in and we're pouring it back into the programs. So this, again, I went through a process, because remember, I went being from a person who was really focused on money to being saying, well, what can I create that's really going to make a difference for people long term? So even beyond me, Styles for Kidz is going to be here giving confidence and care to kids 20 years beyond me, 30 years beyond me. This is an ongoing social issue that has to be addressed, and it's not just about making money. And that's no slight against stylists, because we have to make a living. And I understand that the nature of our industry is about the next head and the next client and the bottom line. But there's a place where our kids, who are our future, need to be poured into. And so this is a vehicle for those kids that need it, for a kid who's in a group home that may not even get a family, to be able to go to school and feel good about themselves. I'm going to tell you a story about a young lady that we helped. She said that the kids at school made fun of her because she gets on the white bus to go home, and she doesn't have parents. And we gave that girl a hairstyle for back to school. She said, this is one less thing, one less burden that I'm going to have to face on Monday when I go to school. My hair is going to be looking good. And just to see the difference that made for her, and the fact that she was able to go on and get good grades in school that semester, like we were hearing those reports. And that is the change and the transformation that is happening because of an organization like this. So that's why we're nonprofit.
You know what? I mean, I again, I'm going to tell you, guys, I heard this story. I thought it was so amazing. I love it in every single way. I have lots of friends from different countries that are biracial. So it's like, so you're not just dealing with, like, everyone just assumes white, black. I have so many friends from different cultures, different countries. And it's true. There's a lot of biracial children. And it's very interesting because right now, because of the Black Lives Movement, you're seeing commercials on TV where they're trying to add in a little bit more color so that way people can get familiar, but you're adding kids with bad hair on TV, and it's driving me bonkers. I mean, I'm just like so annoyed where, why would you just put the kid with the, I mean, yes, we could see the child is mixed, but why are you putting the kid with the bad hair on TV? That's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw,
and you know what? This is a growing issue. It's a growing issue, and it has to be addressed. I cannot tell you the number of biracial adults that have reached out to us who tell us that they are still struggling in this area as adults because their hair was not managed when they were kids, and how it affected them long term, and that they're glad that we're doing this to make it different for another child who will not have to go through some of the things that they had to go through just to have a good self-image about themselves. It affects what job you choose. I'm telling you, it affects your life.
It really does. I mean, and it doesn't take much, because I mean, once a group of individuals find that one thing that they hold on to about you, it's with you forever. So think about if you're in elementary school and you have a sibling, and that sibling got straight A's and you were the problem child. It's that it follows you throughout your entire life. Oh, you're XYZ's brother or sister. Oh, you're not as much of a golden child. And so the hair, skin color, like it goes on for days. So yes, absolutely. I love that you're doing this. What are the biggest obstacles that you had to deal with when you first started this? And how did you, I mean, you had that one family come in, But what was the obstacle in regards of getting the story out and getting people to understand why you're doing this? And it's not a pity party. It's not a hair salon. There's so many different messages. How did you find your path, and how did you create your own story for people to gravitate towards?
Well, two things. Number one, it was very difficult when I first started because there wasn't a big spotlight on natural hair when I first started the organization. So it was very difficult trying to explain to people what it was I was doing, trying to get them to understand and really see this as a larger issue. It was very hard to get people to really understand that. So one of the things that we figured out was that we had to give people more visuals. So we started to take more pictures and create more stories surrounding what we were doing so they can understand who we were helping, and then number two, the impact that it was having. And then the second obstacle, again, that comes along with explaining what you're doing is, of course, getting funding. Well, why is this a social problem, and why is it deserving of funding? So, because you can't do anything without money, as you stated before. So creating that picture for people and getting them to understand why they needed to give and support this as a larger issue has been two major obstacles that we've had.
You are in a pandemic.
Oh my goodness.
We are, the world is. We're in a pandemic. We're still in a pandemic.
Yes.
I mean, you're a 10-year-old company. Yay, 10 years. I mean, we just celebrated, we're in our 11th year, so I'm in the same boat. We started this company when the world imploded the last time. So both of us are on the same path. We're in a pandemic. Everything is shutting down. What did that do for your company?
Well, the biggest thing that it did for us is alert us to the fact that this is a larger problem than what we expected. Because now you have people who already don't know what they're doing, and now they're at home with absolutely zero help figuring out what they're doing. So we realized that there's a real value for the education that we're providing. And so the pivot for us was, we need to put all of our education online. And so that's what we've been doing. We've been doing online workshops. It's been going incredibly well. Number one is building more community in these families so they understand that they're not alone, that this is a real struggle, not only for themselves, but other families who are trying to navigate through the same waters. And then number two, they're getting the training and support that they need. So the pandemic has been bad in the aspect that it's really shut down some of our programs and the funding that was coming in. But the second part that it's done is alert us to a larger issue and help us to come up with better solutions to be able to provide services for people in the middle of a pandemic. So we're surviving. We're surviving.
So in this pandemic, I mean, you've added the online component. Would you have added it before, one? And two, what other things did you add because you have this time? You've had this amazing, I mean, I say this time, this blessing of time. So
yes,
time to really look at your business. You added the online, but what other things that you added that you probably would have never done, or you would have done far, far, far into the future?
Well, one thing that we did was, and we didn't expect to have to do, but we ended up having to do, was to get a larger space because of the 6 feet distancing requirements. But what it has done is it's created a place where we can have more, we can build more of a sense of community with the kids and the families. So that's one thing that we did not see coming out of this that has happened for us. And then number two is giving us an opportunity to get our message in front of more people. So as more people are coming to these classes, obviously it's getting Styles for Kids into communities that, you know, we would not have touched, that are now getting the message. So that's one good thing that has happened from the pandemic. Now, yes, we were already looking at putting our classes online, but we were not anticipating on doing it as quickly as we did. So we had to really rush and get that thing up and running as soon as possible. But the other thing that's happened that you guys have to look forward to in 2021, and some of this is coming out of the George Floyd incident and some of the racial tensions that has arisen because of that, and the feedback that we've gotten from the families that we serve is that they want more education on cultural issues, not only surrounding hair, but how do I have these cultural conversations with my kids? How is it affecting my kids' identity? What things can I do differently to set them up for success? And how can I get involved in participating in this movement so that I'm creating a better future for my kids? So these are workshops that we're creating. We're in the process that we're going to be putting them online and also putting them out on our YouTube as resources for families coming up in 2021. So we're excited about that.
I think that's fantastic because you have you've had so many different vehicles to get to your good. I mean, your greater good is, I mean, you like when you started your education, you have built up something so well and so informative. Key thing is,
yes,
and different levels of information being given out. It's just like who you are, building confidence, getting the hair to the point where you're like, I can go to school with my head up high. I can figure out how to do my own hair. And now just adding the next element, you're continually teaching. Now,
yes.
Rewind for a bit. When you decided to do this, your family was all about education. Your family was all about making sure that you elevated to the highest because they wanted you to have all the opportunities. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to like leave all that stuff behind and I'm going to go do hair. What was their reaction and where are they now?
Well, my dad's reaction was that I did not need to go to school to do hair. So it's a fine time to figure that out. But over the years, as my family began to interact with some of the people who I was having impact on, I think it was then that they started to understand how important that this was, and they eventually got on board to support it because they were not, let me make sure I make that clear. They were not in support of me not having a job and working. I said, I do have a job. I just work for myself now. They're like, that's not a job.
Honestly, I mean, no, seriously, being Haitian, doctor, engineer, lawyer were the only three things that are like, that's the only thing you could do. When I went into business, they were like, I don't get it. Why?
Exactly. But you know what? There's a place where everybody has a gift that they're meant to give to the world. And there's a different way for everyone to do it. And I really had to clearly explain that to them, that this was my gift to give to the world. And I had to do it in the way that God had intended for me to do it. And this was the vehicle, was to be self-employed and not work a job. So eventually they did get on board and support, which is good.
Okay, good. I'm always very intrigued in regards, actually, no, before I go that way, your team. How big is your team and how many locations are you in?
Yes, so we are in one location and our workshops are mobile. So we actually take our workshops to adoption agencies or through other foster agencies that invite us to participate. So that's the way we're doing right now. We have a team of 7, combination of stylists and administration, along with a board of directors and an advisory board or leadership team that we're developing, who are also responsible for helping to lead this organization. So, and we would not be who we are today without the contributions of each and every team member. I have an excellent team. You can't do anything without people.
Oh no!
And,
oh my God! You know, I mean, honest to goodness, I mean, and not even just I can't do anything without people. You can't do without things. You cannot do anything without other people. The right people.
The right people. There you go.
Because I have to say that in the years of working with so many small businesses, the first pain point is I don't know how to get myself out there, and I keep finding the wrong people because they don't love it like I do. And I'm like, they're not supposed to love it like you do. They're supposed to love what they do for you.
That's it. Exactly.
So
And it takes a while to identify who those people are. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The foster kids, you just mentioned that the foster agencies as well as the adoption agencies, when you first started approaching them, I'm just curious in regards of what was their reaction to you? Like this woman that just came up out of nowhere. Did you go to them directly, or did you go through a family that went through you and they're like, oh my God, this is literally rock star. You got to work with her.
Yeah, so that's what happened. You know, the transracial adoptive community is a very tight-knit community. Mm-hmm. And so it was as I developed those relationships that some of these other relationships with agencies formulated from those. So no, and I will tell you the first foster agency that we worked with, I was not totally convinced, being real transparent here, that it was something that I wanted to take on. And so, but again, you know, I've had so many life-changing moments, and the person who connected me with the agency said, Tamekia, if you would just go, spend time with the girls, see what's going on. I'm like, okay, finally, after 2 years of saying no, I'm going. And I tell you, again, another life-changing moment was just like, I can't walk away and not do something, you know? So, and I think in the beginning, it was just like, it's just too good to be true that somebody actually cares this much about us. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that you have to, again, I'm going to keep saying what you do is fantastic, but I think that one of the things that you have to remember is that if you are not finding ways to get yourself out there, the people that need you most can't find you.
Exactly.
These kids needed you. They needed
yes.
you. They're in loving situations.
Mm-hmm.
That moment of feeling insecure. I mean, we remember junior high school, you just remember
it's hard.
It's like, it's hard. I mean, I wouldn't pay that. I mean, I swear to God, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy to go back to at all. Because you're just trying to figure out who you are. And I mean, for me being a Haitian kid where in my house, I'm in Haiti, outside my house, I'm in the US. And it's just like that I don't know where I belong. I don't know where I belong. And so to hear what you're doing for these kids and knowing that the trauma that they're dealing with, where I've been pulled away from my family. I was adopted, which again, loving home, but I feel like I don't belong in a place where I belong.
Exactly.
And to have you there is absolutely fantastic. So
it is.
This to go, like what's next for you? What's next in regards of the company, the kids, the organizations, the programs? Where do we go?
Yeah. Well, we're at the point now where we are growing so fast because now with all of this national exposure, we have families that have reached out to us from all over the place that need help. I mean, we've had South Africa, UK, Asia, like all these countries. This is like becoming a global issue. And so our goal is to identify strategic partners who would like to work with us and come alongside where we can continue to get our education into the hands of families and kids and make a difference. So that is the place where we're at right now. And I'm excited about all the people that are going to be helped through something as small as helping one parent, you know, and now we've helped thousands of parents. And I'll be excited. We can say hundreds of thousands of parents and families and kids that have been impacted. So we're at the place now where we're just looking to get our programs into other states initially. So we've been identifying some ways to do that. So look for a workshop. Of course, the pandemic has kind of slowed things down for us. So we're just looking forward to the time when we can resume some of our programming. We actually started resuming our in-house programming. So now we're just looking to, as some of the restrictions are being lifted, then we'll be able to go to regionally to some areas, and then we'll be able to branch out and go further. So we're excited about that also.
Beautiful. Oh my God, I'm so proud of you. And this conversation has been so good. And I'm like, I don't want it to end, but I have my last question. If you had a personal and professional ask of anyone that's listening to you right now, what would be your personal ask and what would be your professional ask?
And this is an interesting question because I live and breathe Styles for Kids. That's all I think about every day. Like it's my passion, it's what I'm committed to. It doesn't feel like work some days, which is great. So a lot of those things kind of personally intertwine. So I'm just going to put it into one overall request, and that is personally and professionally. I wish that there was someone who really believed in what we did and that would come alongside and support us, that would really push us to the next level. We've got a lot of attention, but that attention has not really warranted very much for us. It's really been the local support that has helped us endure. And so I just wish that there was someone out there who said, you know what, this is an organization that I could get behind and support and really give us a push that's going to help us to get the donations that we need to fund the mission. And there's a child sitting somewhere right now. I mean, I'm always so closely connected with that, who's desperate for a solution, and they're not getting it because we can't get our programs to them. So, so personally and professionally, I'm looking for someone out there who really wants to help us get the fire going and get the Hair Care for Heart movement across this country.
I am, again, I mean, I cannot just, I'm wowed by you. I'm wowed by you because I'm constantly seeing kids that are just trying to figure out their place in the world. I mean, I work with kids. I work at a bereavement camp for kids. I volunteer at a bereavement camp for kids. I used to be a teacher back in the day. I'm known as Auntie Jodi to many. I mean, I surround myself with kids because they literally give you hope. And if someone is out there that is able to help them build that hope, it's fantastic. So whenever someone is on TV, in the paper, I see you, I see you. I see you, I gravitate towards you, and I will do whatever I can to help you and get the word out.
Yes.
And I want to say thank you to saying yes. I mean, I'm this random person in Boston where I'm like, I have a brand new podcast. I want to have you on. And so I'm very proud of you for putting the oxygen on you first to make sure that more people can find you. Because I think that sometimes people just say like, oh, well, it's not Oprah's show, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, you know what? I go, you don't know my community. So because you don't know my community, you want to be, I mean, due diligence and check to see if the person's not cray-cray. And I hope you realize I'm not cray-cray. But you want to make sure that the person is very clear that
no, you're beautiful.
We are here to make sure that everyone succeeds in one way or another. And I mean, again, I think I saw you on CBS. God, I think it had to be either the beginning of this year or last year you were on CBS. And like
this morning, that was fun.
It was amazing. I mean, it was just so amazing in every single way. Are you kidding me? Where's this lady? Huh? Oh my God, I need to know. The second I started this podcast, I had my list of people that I was going to call and engage with, and you were on my list. I'm like, she doesn't know me, but I'm going to try to convince her. And it wasn't much convincing, but I love that you got to come here and tell more of your story, that what people just don't know about. Because when you're on TV, as a former TV producer, we only have a limited amount of time. I wanted more of your story.
Yes.
A really better deep who you are, where you come from.
And thank you for sharing my story. Yeah, thank you for sharing my story. One thing I will say is that I think that's something that we as a community, and when I say community, I mean community of African Americans and Americans, black people in this country. One of the things that we need to work on collectively is being more unified. And if I can support you in what you're doing, and you can support me in what I'm doing, that is how we're going to create collective success for our community that's going to pull us from the place where we are now to the place where we're intended to be. And so we can look at each other that way and say, I respect what you're doing, and I appreciate your gift that you're giving to the world, and how can I support you in that? That is how we're going to succeed. And we're going to create better relationships, better communities, better economic structure in our families and for our businesses. We cannot succeed unless we are joining arms and we are working together. And that's across industries, across businesses, across communities. We gotta find a way to stay connected. Yeah. And so I'm honored that you asked me to be on this podcast. And I support you in what you're doing and your gift that you're giving to the world. So, and thank you for allowing me to be able to speak here freely about what it is that I'm doing and the gift that I'm giving to the world in order to make it better.
Oh, so my God. You. Oh, my friend, you are awesome. You're awesome. Yeah. You're amazing. Again, whatever you need in regards of just like finding more ways of reaching more people, I will be there. And again, thank you very much for saying yes to CBS. Thank you very much for thank you very much for going on your trip and really teaching that one first course over 10 years ago that built all
that changed my life. It literally changed my life in Poland of all places.
Wait, you were in Poland? What? Wait. So we didn't talk about it. You were in Poland?
I was in Poland teaching Polish kids how to braid hair. Oh my goodness, you just never know.
Another thing where it's like you never say no. So one of my favorite books is Shonda Rhimes' is like The Year of Yes, because when you oh my God, it's such a fun book. She has a sister that basically you say no to everything, and she's like, no, I don't. She's like, you say no to everything, and so her sister challenged her. I want you to say yes to everything. For 1 whole year, she said yes to things, and all these opportunities came out of nowhere. You were asked to teach a class. And you could have taught, I don't know, you could have taught how to upload an app on my phone. You could have taught anything. You taught how to braid, and that opened your eyes.
How to make fried chicken. I make fried chicken very well, by the way. To Polish kids, that would have been interesting.
So that's the good thing where always find, there's opportunities everywhere. This is why I'm telling people, never waste a good crisis.
That's right.
Where in 10 years, we are going to see the most amazing things come out of this moment of time. And I love that years from now, we're going to see how your company is even bigger and better.
Yes. I look forward to it. I look forward to the impact, of course.
Tamekia, thank you so very, oh my God, thank you for just being here. And thanks very much for talking. I really do appreciate it. You are beautiful. And inside and outside, you're just beautiful.
Thank you. And the same for you, girl. I'm looking to see this podcast go to heights unseen.
You know what? It honestly is just for me a give back, because a lot of people are trying to figure out how to give back to the community. I'm a former media person. I own a marketing firm. This was my one guilty pleasure, because every Friday I do these, and I go, and every Friday I get to talk to friends. So I was like collectively just catching up with friends all over. And number two, I believe in small, medium business. I believe in you. You're agile, you're very savvy, you're able to like create new opportunities for people that would have never known.
Yes.
Your stories need to be shared. And for me, I give back. So this is like, I work Monday through Friday like you. I eat, sleep, breathe my company. But this is my guilty pleasure on Friday mornings. I know what I'm doing, and I'm just talking, and I'm having a great time. So thank you so very much for being part of my fun time.
Yes, and thank you, girl, for having me.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.